Emil Guillermo. Emil amok to you. Welcome to my takeout, my Emil Muck's takeout, my takes on all things considerable. Hey, we're here. We're here for the. I just came back from Vancouver. I did the Fringe. It was a great time. I love Vancouver. Vancouver is like San Francisco, and it's got enough rice cooker, not enough Asians, so there's enough rice cooker fog to create the kind of, or to emulate the kind of, the kind of weather that we get in the Bay Area and, Daly City. But I love it there. I was great in Vancouver, British Columbia, did the Fringe, did some good shows, had some good crowds, and I'm going to bring Emil Muck 69 here. But I'm telling you now, so you save the date, November 19th. I know I'm going way in the future. It's September now. I'm going October, November. So you save the date, at the SF March on Valencia Street, 7:30. Get tickets. Very few tickets available because it's a small theater. And I just want people that ahead of time, go make your plans, come see me, make it like, you wanted to see me the last couple of years, but I hadn't come to San Francisco and there was COVID. So come on and see me November 19th at the Marsh in San Francisco. Get your tickets. They're on the screen there. Okay. So that's good. That's good. Now, if you want to see me before in a live setup, I'm part of the Filipino Comedy Festival. Yeah, what is it? Is that, you have Imelda Marcos there? No, but we might have some Imelda Marcos jokes. The Filipino Comedy Festival, the San Francisco Filipino Comedy Festival, is in conjunction with the Filipino Comedy Festival in New York, and I'm in the San Francisco one. It's at Bindlestiff. The 7 p.m. show on September 26th. So I'm in the early bird show for the older people. The 26th and 27th shows at 7 and 9. I'm at the 7 p.m. on Friday the 26th. So that's when you go to Bindlestiff. Get your tickets at bindlestiffstudio.org/Filipino Comedy Fest 3. I guess this is the third one they're doing, but it's the 26th and 27th of September. I'm on the first show, 7 p.m. on the 26th. So check it out. Should be a good time. Should be fun at Bindlestiff Studios in San Francisco. They're on 6th Street. That's if you want to see me do a 7-minute, stand-up bit or 10-minute stand-up bit on being Filipino, right? It's kind of like the crack of my one-man show. You can see it at Bindlestiff on 6th Street in San Francisco. Go to Bindlestiff Studio. Let's see, Bindlestiff Studios. Is it studio.org and get your tickets. All right. So there, I plugged the comedy show on September 26th at 7 p.m. And I plugged my one-man show live on November 19th at 7:30 p.m. Don't forget it now. I'm giving you a lot of time to forget. That could be dangerous for Filipinos. But now, the big news of the day is that I guess America loves fascism, right? I mean, there's a little hue and cry about what's going on. But for the most part, a lot of people are saying, yeah, Jimmy Kimmel is off the air. I guess we should be concerned. Yes, we should be concerned. If you're not concerned, then you believe in government crackdown on free speech. That's a love of fascism, no? I was wondering about this, so let's bring on my friend of the show. We have him come on and talk about the news. I mean, there are other things in the news, but this seems to be the issue that kind of is lingering. What is the future of our country? What is the future of free speech? It seems like Americans really like fascism. Could that be true? Let's bring on Professor Emeritus Daniel Phil Gonzalez. Professor Emeritus, San Francisco State University, Asian American Studies, College of Ethnic Studies. Dan, welcome to the program.
Hi, it must be Friday. Thanks for having me. Welcome back to the Bay
Yeah.
from your excursion to Canada.
Yeah, I loved it. I loved it.
I
Look, I
knew
got
I
my
knew you would really enjoy it, and I also knew
yeah.
that you were going to especially enjoy Vancouver because I also love the place. It's fantastic.
It's
You know,
fantastic.
if it wasn't raining all the time, I would truly consider having a second home up there. It'd
Yeah,
be worthwhile.
it's tempting. I love rain. I love the rain too, and it's like Hawaii rain. Rain but cold. Hawaii rain but cold. I mean Hawaii it rains, but it's warm. You don't mind.
Yeah, it's the
But
frequency and the cold part that kind
yeah.
of it particularly bothers Linda. My
Oh
wife.
yeah, yeah. But I love Vancouver.
Yeah, it is. It is.
It's
Well,
great.
welcome back. Welcome
Yeah.
back.
Well, thank you. Thank you. All
Welcome
right.
back to American quasi-fascism.
Well, this is the thing. A lot of people up there said, "Oh, you're up in Canada. Do you want to stay?" And I said, "Well, I'm tempted. I'm tempted, but I am an American. I know I don't look like an American to some people who are like looking for people who don't look like Americans." And it reminds me of when I was in college and I was on a bus from New York or from Boston to New York, and they were looking for people who didn't look like Americans. And guess what? I didn't look like American, and they asked me for my papers. And what passport? I don't have a passport. I was like 18 years old. Anyway, the thing is, while I was up in Canada, the ICE or Supreme Court said it's okay for ICE to racially profile. So I was a little concerned about that because now I could be, you don't need a busted tail light. They could stop you for anything. And if you have,
I kind of warned you. I said,
yeah,
going up ain't the problem. It's coming back in, and
yeah,
and actually coming back in through Vancouver is probably a friendlier route, right? Because
yeah.
it
Actually, you go through customs. They have this joint thing at customs in Canada, and so you actually enter the U.S. right there at the Vancouver airport.
right.
And actually, I didn't have as much problem there because
That's
it
right.
was because they know they're not rabid like the ICE people. They're not trying to make their quota because they got a $10,000 bonus.
Yeah.
They're more sane. They're more sane up there. Anyway, so I got back, and of course, it's all after the Jimmy Kimmel, or it's all before the Jimmy Kimmel stuff. I was up there in Canada when the Charlie Kirk thing happened. Now,
Here it is.
here's
lot
the
was
thing.
happening while you were up there, man.
Yeah, but it was happening, but I did not. At first I did not say anything about Charlie Kirk. And then I realized, well, I've got to say something because there's something wrong with the way the president of the United States is reacting. Every living president came out condemning political violence, except the current president, who was more interested in pointing fingers. And that really is what Jimmy Kimmel was all about. I said that in my show and I got an applause and people liked it in Canada. But look what happened when Jimmy Kimmel on Monday essentially says, hey, I got a problem with the way Trump is reacting. He's pointing fingers, trying to score points. And that is seen as not just anti-Trump, but anti-Charlie Kirk, which doesn't make... I heard everything that Jimmy Kimmel said. He was not anti Charlie Kirk. So we have a lot of misinterpretation, aka lies, about what happened, and Jimmy Kimmel gets yanked from the air.
Yep.
How do you explain that, Professor?
They're looking for a reason, and this assassination was a good enough reason.
Yeah.
In fact, it was from the perspective of the right, it was a perfect reason.
Yeah.
They can celebrate him. One of the things that I think I said to you privately was, watch how the right heroifies Charlie Kirk.
Yeah.
And they try to avoid actually quoting him, because so many of his statements and his positions that he has maintained for years, right? Ever since he started, in podcast realm, uh, are so offensive. Not just in specific terms towards the left, right? But offensive in general terms towards women, and
Yeah.
particularly black women. Okay,
But
so
and let's not forget trans. He was anti-trans,
obviously,
and well, I mean, his
yeah, but
logic
see,
is
being anti-trans though is popular. That's one of the things that he was, the positions that he was maintaining and the statements that he was making,
right.
that is actually popular in the general public.
Well, yeah, and you got to say this about his position. It was enough to convince Gavin Newsom and some other liberals of flipping over, and saying, yeah, men shouldn't be competing against women, and totally missing the idea of what a trans person is. What I didn't like about what Charlie Kirk said, I mean, this was his logic. He said, if I wear blackface, am I a black man? So if I put on a dress, am I a trans woman? Am I a woman? He said, I don't want to live your lie. That's what he said. And that was his logic. And it's offensive. And people, I mean, he had said more offensive things about gun rights, and he said more in the Second Amendment, more offensive things about reparations and blacks. But, here's Jimmy Kimmel getting the brunt of it just for pointing out that, forget what Charlie Kirk said. What did Donald Trump say? Or what has Donald Trump done but use Charlie Kirk? Donald Trump is using Charlie Kirk as a human shield to do anything he wants. Here's Charlie Kirk. Let me do this. Let me take away your rights. Here's Charlie Kirk. Let me take away, First Amendment rights. That's what Jimmy Kimmel was protesting. And for that, he got yanked.
Yep. It's not only so Kirk was a premise, okay, to go after people who were quote critical of Kirk. The reality is, because you can't criticize someone who's the victim of such a horrible assassination.
Right.
Now, what about all of the other assassinations? Let's go back in history and look at the ugliest 5 years in American history, beginning with the assassination of JFK, okay, and then moving to the assassination of, and finally, people are actually mentioning the assassination of Malcolm X.
Yeah.
Okay. And then Martin Luther King Jr., and then Robert F. Kennedy. Okay, an ugly 5-year period that provoked, and these were assassinations that came from the right.
Yeah.
And then they provoked reaction from the left, but it was Republicans and conservatives generally, again, that criticized the hell out of that period of reaction from the left, okay, that brought us not only the Black Panther Party, but the Brown Berets, right, from the Latino point of view.
Militancy. It brought
American Indian movement, right?
Yeah.
So there was a radicalization of the left in reaction to the persecution of these groups from the right and from majority America.
Yeah.
Okay. So already you could see the likelihood that perhaps the majority of Americans would be supportive of the kind of positions that are now being taken by the Trump administration, which were spelled out specifically in Project 2025.
Yeah. Yeah. They let us know. We were forewarned. Most people just didn't read it or take it to heart or believe it could happen. But maybe because they have a sense of history and they saw that America went through this once. Would America want to go through this again? That's what I don't get, because it seems like we're going through it again.
Every generation is susceptible to the same, I'm not going to say, to the same tragedies. They're susceptible to the same tragedies. And it's largely because we do not educate each generation about the tragedies of the preceding generation. We don't educate them well enough. Okay, we don't train them to understand, and now they don't want people to understand what is justiciable, right, and how
Yeah.
that differentiates from what is moral and ethical. Because so
Yeah.
many things that are immoral and unethical are not illegal. That's the problem.
Right. And so he said, well, yeah, it's bad. It's not illegal, but
That's part of the problem.
it ends up being just a power thing. You can say,
Well,
well,
yes,
he was brave.
absolutely.
He can speak truth to power. Yeah, yeah. Oh, Emil and Dan, they speak truth to power. But power is power, and power wins. And when you see that happen over and over again, you say, oh, we can't just face down the bulldozer. We can't be the Asian man looking staring down at the tank because that's suicidal.
Right, right.
So
That
what do
that
we do?
well, the only thing that works is mass movements. Okay, and they don't have to be total. You don't have to have all of the coastal states, right? I mean, the Wall Street Journal editorial said that for generations, right, the heart of America has been attacked by the ingenuous, right, positions taken by the coastal liberals, right,
Hmm.
progressives, which is really ridiculous, right? What they're
Yeah.
saying is that left progressive elements have been critical, right, of positions taken by the conservative right. Those criticisms are, for example, anti-homophobia, anti miscegenation. In other words, allowing people to have interracial marriage. Okay,
Hmm.
people don't realize. Yes, that was fought over. When was it fought over? When was the federal government finally able to say that prohibiting interracial marriages is unconstitutional? They didn't do that until the civil rights era, when the civil rights era was gaining some level of success in the mid 1960s,
Yeah.
1967 to be exact. Okay,
Yeah.
this is also the same period where the rights of people being arrested by the police were protected by, for example, the Escobedo prohibition against using confessionary kinds of statements, right? And then leading to the Miranda decision, right, which required police to warn somebody of their right to remain silent and their right to an attorney.
So
Oh, and
so
also the last thing is, do you understand your rights? That's the
hmm.
last element of the Miranda warning. Okay.
Right. And all these things you mentioned, when they got passed, they were historic breakthroughs. Which
Yeah. Supreme Court.
we have now arrived in the land of justice. America is this is the democracy we yearned for. We have the Miranda rights thing. We have all the things that you mentioned, all these rights, but they're not like concretized. They're still fluid because all it takes is a change in the political wind and we are going backwards. And it seems like we're going backwards now. And especially on the principle right of the First Amendment,
Right.
which is all right. When you argue the First Amendment, people always say, well, it's government shall make no law. So it's really only if the government cracks down. And this is a real hybrid because the government tried to crack down on ABC to fire people like Kimmel, and ABC could have pushed back, but they capitulated. They
Why?
gave in without a fight.
Did you originate the term capitulation capitalism?
I
Was
did,
that you?
yes. Yes, that was me.
Yeah. Well, consider it stolen. I'm going to use it, or borrowed anyway.
Yeah, yeah, just attribute it to me. I know
I will.
as the
I will.
wordsmith.
And
Capitulate
so be aware that the FBI will be looking for you.
capitulation capitalism just means that go along, get along. I mean, the Filipinos have a term, right? Isn't it pakikisama? Isn't that go along, get along? Isn't that
Well, yeah. Well, no, that's with your constant companions. That's with the people that you hang out with. Kasama.
well? I mean, if you do it, if you expand it to include government or
The general society.
getting along with
Yeah,
tyrants,
The
you
one
know,
that I
it's
hear, the one that I hear that is most, it's not pakikisama. It's pabayan mo.
Babayan
Pabayan.
mo.
Just it's for the do it for the country, man. It's it's for the
Oh, the good.
let it
Well,
go.
yeah,
Let
good.
it go.
But the
Let
good
it
of the
go.
country is
Just let
different.
it go.
Yeah, good of the country is different when it's authoritarian. When it's like, hey, you
Well,
can't
that's
say it.
how do you explain Marcos?
Yeah, well, I know. I
Marcos
mean,
Senior. I want to distinguish between Marcos
oh
Senior
yeah,
and
yeah,
and Bone.
Marcos Senior. Well, as I point out in my column, and you can read my column in the Inquirer.net, that uh, America is slowly adopting all the things, or Trump is certainly adopting all the strategies that Marcos used to control the Philippines. And the irony is, he did it with the full backing of the Reagan presidency and the Bush presidency, and now we see it happening here
Right.
under the Trump presidency. That hey, there's a method, there's a strategy here.
Well, they would
That
never. It's okay for us to make that comparison, right?
yeah.
Because we're Filipino, we're Asian American.
Mhm.
We have affinity with the Philippines. It's okay for us to mention that, but white America, and particularly the Trump administration, will never make that comparison.
Of course.
White media easily makes the comparison with Orban, right?
Or with Bolsonaro. Oh,
And
Bolsonaro.
Bolsonaro, right? Yeah.
Yeah. With Brazil.
Uh, Orban is not quite white. He's Turkish, right?
Yeah.
Uh, yeah. Bolsonaro is obviously not mestizo Brazilian. He looks like a
Yeah.
white Brazilian, right?
Yeah.
And Brazilians make clear distinctions between light-colored people and dark-colored people.
Yeah.
Okay, so
And Trump
that's what we
makes
got.
it. And Trump makes a distinction that hey, Brazil, you be kind to Bolsonaro, or I'll slap 50% tariffs on you. I mean, that's Trump's way.
Yeah, and my
I mean,
coffee.
so
That's why we stocked up on coffee, man.
well, yeah. Well. So Dan, here we are. We have a right to be scared and fearful, don't we?
Hell yeah, but I don't think people are getting it. I think the point of your most recent article is really, if we are accepting this, we are in fact accepting fascism, and it's not a mere possibility. It is happening.
Is
You know,
happening? Well,
Pablo Torre, another Filipino American, another Harvard guy, by the way.
yeah, I know.
Okay.
I don't know Pablo,
He
but I
has
know.
come out and he used the word regulatory censorship, and the regulatory part brings in governmental power.
Yeah.
So we're talking about enforcement directly now by governmental agencies, right? And this merges with your notion of capitulation capitalism, because the reason that ABC is a little more prone, right, is because there are people making deals
Oh yeah.
on buying out institutions. Look at the right, Nexstar is
Yeah.
trying
Sinclair.
to buy out Tegna, right?
Yeah.
It's in your
Formerly,
article. It's in your
formerly
article.
Gannett. Yeah.
Yeah, Gannett Publications, and they started out in books, right?
Yeah,
Gannett,
no,
and then-
Gannett was big. Gannett was big. And look, as a guy who has done his time in broadcasting, Gannett used to be one of the premier media organizations, mostly in newspapers, small town.
That's
They
right.
owned USA Today too, ultimately, and had a national presence.
That's right.
They had a big presence in the 80s, and then they fell apart. I don't know, the business model fell apart, and then the small papers fell apart. They got into broadcasting. They had great broadcasting outlets. They were not ideological. They were straight down the middle. They had great properties all throughout. They were bought out by Sinclair and Nexstar, and they want to be the next Fox.
Sinclair, yes, became super right.
Yeah,
They bought up radio stations and promoted conservative talk radio,
yeah.
so-called conservative talk radio.
They had
They kept calling it conservative talk radio, and the reality was a lot of that stuff was radical right.
Oh yeah, it was Ollie North. Ollie North. It
Sure.
was the extreme right, and Sinclair was also incorporated religion. So when you're
Christian
talking about the
nationalism, yes.
yeah when you talk about the rise of Sinclair winded by Tegna, it is my heart breaks because Tegna, once it reformulated from Gannett, it was still seen as a it was the best that local news can do. The what some of the best stations in local news, and now to see them bought out by Sinclair, which is totally like a mini local version of Fox. They've got that kind of anchor, that kind of look, that kind of ideology, and in order to do that, in order to buy out Tegna, they've got to break the monopoly barriers. And to do that, you need FCC approval. You need government approval. So that's why.
Yeah, the line is the cap is supposed to be 39%.
Yeah.
And so clearly, if this deal goes beyond 39%, then the question becomes, well, how much, right, of that end of the media, right, will they control? Are they going to control like 50%?
Yeah,
of the media market,
they're going to be a mini network, more powerful than the networks, because they're all owned and operated by this one strong right-wing conservative ownership group. And it's sad, because I have seen this happening throughout in, whether you call it censorship or not, they skirt the term so that it becomes acceptable. But some people are trying to excuse what ABC did to Jimmy Kimmel as just business, because hey, it was just a business deal. But no, this isn't just a business deal, and it does reverberate and have impact to everyone who cracks open a mic in the country. Everyone who's a broadcaster, anyone who's a journalist, anyone who's a citizen who thinks, oh, can I open up a mic and say something on the internet? Whoops. And maybe that's an example. We just lost Dan. No, you're back, right? What happened?
Well, no, now you put me on the, yeah. Anyway, okay, so why aren't people complaining about monitoring content from the right at this point? Okay, they're just saying it's a business deal. Well, so what? All kinds of things are wrapped up in business deals. What happened when AT&T was saying that when we buy out IT&T, it's not going to be a monopoly kind of thing. It'll be good for the public because remember that it's going to lower costs for the public. And I said to students in my class, okay, business majors, show me one time to contradict my position. Show me one time when a large corporation, a mega corporation, international corporation has bought out another major corporation where the cost to the consumer actually went down. Just show me one time. Here in California, Proposition 13, remember?
Yeah.
Part of the reason it was sold was not only to protect seniors, right, who were at risk of losing their property interests because of rising property taxes, that they said, we're going to protect accessibility to single family homes for future generations. That's what we're going to do. And I looked at my students, I said, okay, business majors, I want to hear it. Economics, economists, show me one who's going to say that, what they actually sold Prop 13. One of the things they used was it's going to reduce rent.
Oh, I heard that. I heard that. But
going to reduce rent. It's like, what?
But the big message and the reason why that passed, Jarvis Gann, right? It was all about the seniors, and the seniors were upset that they didn't want their taxes raised when they were on a fixed income. So they don't get their income, they don't get any surprise raises, but everyone else has to pay. Everyone else coming after them
them
has to pay.
after
Yeah.
76.
And
Well,
that's
but here's the great untold secret, right?
yeah.
Right? People die.
Oh
People
yeah.
die. Okay? People pass on. And so, to quote whatever her name was, we're all gonna die, right? She's not gonna run again.
Jody
Ernst,
Ernst.
yeah.
Senator Ernst.
But anyway, so
Senator
the
Ernst, who's
point about
retiring.
Proposition 13 protected elderly, so that they can retain their homes. But it only went that far. It didn't help out their succeeding generation. Okay.
Right. It didn't.
Yeah.
Anyone who comes after them, forget it. The price will go back up.
But which people don't die? And the answer is corporations. Corporations that built their buildings before 1976 retain the same tax status as they had up to and including 1976. In other words, they're not paying the same penalty that private owners of real property, right, residential property, are paying. They're paying huge taxes, right?
And that makes it a boon to business, a boon to capitalists.
Absolutely.
A boon. And because I mean, you just transfer ownership to the corporation before.
As long as they hold the property, as long as they continue to hold the property. What did
Yeah.
Standard Oil do? Standard Oil left the city and they rent out their buildings, okay? What Wells Fargo Bank, what did they do? What is one of the tallest buildings in the city, right? Bank of America. What did they do? They're landlords. Okay?
Yeah, well that's why
they're landlords.
that's why you pay if you're a corporate, corporatist, you pay
And
the
the
big
rest
bucks
of us and the rest of us pay the difference. So we're the ones, the corporations are benefiting, right, from the highways, they're benefiting from the street repairs, they're benefiting from traffic safety, they're benefiting from the renewal of infrastructure, right? But who's paying the majority of that? Why are our gas taxes in California so high? Okay, it's because the folks who drive, right, are paying the taxes in gas, and when they gas any petroleum products, right? Okay, so now that we're moving over, a lot of people are moving over to hybrids, and they're moving over to electric cars, okay, and trucks. What's happening? That tax base is going down. And so now what they want to do, they want to tax EVs now. Okay, we're trying to find some other way to do that. And so it's the consumer, it's us on the ground that continue to pay the difference. So every time,
just like tariffs, just like everything else, they all pass it on back to the consumer. And who's talking for the consumer? Nobody.
Well, Nader. Nader,
I mean,
AOC,
I haven't heard from Nader in a long time. I know he's still around.
Nader
is the most
PBS. You got to listen to PBS and then K. What do I listen to? KPFA.
Yeah, I know. I've heard. I know he's still around, but his voice is diminished.
That's true. That's true.
In terms of
Richard Wolff is around. Richard Wolff, but he's obviously a socialist economist, but
Yeah. Well, I mean, just who's out there pushing Richard Wolff? I mean, I've seen Marianne Williamson put Richard Wolff out there, and that's good. I like Nader, but these are the voices who are they're dinosaurs compared to the new voices, like Charlie Kirk, right? Like I mean, I wrote a column for the Black community, a version. And I'm sure a lot in the Black community who do not follow politics 100% of the time are probably scratching their head saying, who's Charlie Kirk, right? And the fact is, Charlie Kirk talked about blacks because, Charlie Kirk's target demo was white males 18 to 34. College educated, non-college educated white males 18 to 34. Right, Trump bros. His targets were people of color, blacks, trans, anyone over, 50 plus. You were a target. You weren't a target demo of his. You were his target. And so I think a lot of people are finding out, you know, the country who are, just doing their jobs and not paying attention to politics. I'm talking about a lot of people of color, working class. I'm sure a lot of them didn't even know who Charlie Kirk was.
I agree. I agree.
And and
They,
now
they know now. They know now only from the perspective of the right.
right,
So
only from
his heroification, right,
yeah.
is the way that most people now are getting a perspective on who Charlie Kirk was.
Right. What you need to know is he was anti-black, anti-person of color, anti-trans. He was racist, homophobic. He was um, for. He believed in the replacement theory. He believed in all the weird, racist conspiracy theories that are out there. And for the, I think everyone who criticizes Charlie Kirk always puts out the disclaimer first. Look, I love Charlie Kirk. I love his right to use the First Amendment and the way he used it. I love that. I just don't think.
Well, I like the fact that he was confrontational and willing to be open to criticism on college campuses.
Yeah,
I thought that was great.
and
That amount of provocation is something that I haven't seen since the late '60s, early '70s.
well,
One of my
to that,
favorite professors at SF State was Ted Keller,
yeah.
and he would get criticism for inviting leaders of the California Nazi Party to come on the campus and speak. And even during the celebrated San Francisco State strike of '68, '69.
Yeah.
And he took a lot of flack for that, but I understood completely why he was doing that.
It's important to do that, and I praise him for that too. But it's not like he was. It was a two-way street. Two-way street in his little forums, but he had his own people go out there and troll people he didn't like and shut down and intimidate people's speech. So he was not pure. He was not pure, is what I'm saying. Still, look, my point is, I'm not critical of him and his murder. No one. Everyone condemns political violence.
No,
Except
no,
for
that's not true. There's been a lot of people who very loosely went online, in social media, and in some instances, even in the classroom, celebrated his assassination.
All right, but all right. There were a handful. I didn't celebrate, and I think
Okay, that's fine for us to say, but
anyone responsible, I think, has to say, look.
Then what I'm asking you to do is be critical of those people who were crazy and stupid enough to make those kinds of statements. Okay, especially online and in the classroom. That is more than grossly irresponsible. Right?
Yeah, I'm critical of them. I'm not uncritical of them. I didn't hear about it, and I don't know about those instances. But if they existed, yes, that was not a good move. I'm only critical at the highest level of our leaders who should be leaders and showing the way on how to lead us out of this muck. And the way to do it is to condemn all political violence. None of it's acceptable in a democracy. And everyone did it, every living president, except for Donald Trump. And that's what Jimmy Kimmel got in trouble for, because he made fun of that. He recognized it. He recognized that Trump was leveraging and trying to use it. And he made fun of it in a really... only to point out the truth, but I don't think it was. Here's what I find disingenuous: when people try to protect, Trump, and they'll say things like, "Well, Jimmy Kimmel was disrespectful to the American people. Jimmy Kimmel knows that people are grieving, and now he's joking about it, and people are grieving. It's terrible. It's terrible." I heard at least two prominent names defend what happened to Jimmy Kimmel by saying, "Oh, Jimmy Kimmel was so bad. He was so bad. He was,
Yeah, and all he said was that um, uh, he suggested that the killer was MAGA,
Right.
and he said one of them. Okay,
Right.
the MAGA people are going crazy trying to do this thing, and they're ignoring the fact that this guy was actually one of them. And what he meant by one of them, right, wasn't absolutely clear. He wasn't necessarily saying that this guy was a MAGA, but he was saying he's a person who thinks like that.
Yeah.
Okay, and
Well,
it's not clear that this guy. People keep saying it's ideological, and he was coming from the left. He was specifically upset about one thing, and ironically, the question that Kirk was answering was how many transgender people have committed mass shootings. Okay, and that's when he got
yeah.
shot.
Well, he was. Yeah. Well, the trans issue was important to this guy. I don't know how many other issues, left issues were part of his. I don't know if he left a manifesto or what. I don't believe he did, but
Yeah, well,
he did
this
leave that
it was
confessional.
personal. It was personal, and people are saying
Yeah.
it's ideological because people who want to protect the rights of transgender people, right, and who are into justice, regardless of sexuality and gender, right, people who
Mhm,
are into
mhm,
equality,
mhm.
right, they say, okay, well, that's liberal, that's progressive, so that's what it is. He's
Yeah.
ideologically left. That's where they're coming from, you know.
Yeah. Well, it's dishonest. It's disingenuous, what they're doing. And if all we had, that's why it boils down to, look, if we could just have an honest discussion about what's going on. I mean, a real and be civil about it. That's our
Yeah, that's
problem
the
in
problem.
America.
That's the problem. That's it
We're
right there.
not we're not civil, we're not honest, we will lie, we will take a political stand, we will parrot what other people say. We'll parrot what Donald Trump says. I have a friend who parrots exactly what Donald Trump said. And he said, I don't even know if you even know who Charlie Kirk is. Do you know? Are you going to talk about him? I said, yeah, I'm going to talk about him. I don't. He said, and then he asked me if I felt remorse. No, I don't. Not me. I didn't do any killing. I want Charlie Kirk to live. So I think what
We're
we have
supposed to be
here is we have.
remorseful because the assassin was again somebody who evidently comes from the left. The other point that now I lost my thought. The other point that we ought to make is the level of hypocrisy, right?
Oh
Uh,
yeah, yeah,
it's the right has been accusing the left of doing all kinds of things, and taking the phrase cancel culture and accusing the left of doing that and saying that there's a left mob, right? There's a leftist
yeah.
mob, right?
Well,
There's,
not like
there's,
January 6th. Not
there's,
like on January 6th. I mean, that's the thing. And
that
I
wasn't
think,
a mob. That was a tour. That was a tour group, man.
yeah,
That was a
yeah,
tour group, and
yeah,
that was not feces. That was chocolate cake or something, right? It was just
yeah,
pie, it was a fudge pie. They didn't do anything to deface deface the house of the people. No,
yeah,
man, those weren't broken windows. What?
yeah,
No, those people weren't injured cops. They were they were
yeah,
they were role playing. They were role
yeah.
playing, just like all those
Cosplay.
kids that got killed in Florida, right? In Florida high school, they were role playing. Or the kids
Yeah,
at Sandy Hook. That never happened.
yeah. I think that they can't live down January 6th. And to the degree they don't or refuse to, we see how thick this hypocrisy
They
goes.
don't. They
And
don't have to live it down though, Emil. They don't have to live it down because they got pardoned. They all got
right,
pardoned.
they got pardoned.
Okay. What I do on a monthly basis is I track the trackers of all of the people that got pardoned to see how many of them have been busted for further crimes.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody talking about that? You're gonna get
Well,
you're
how
gonna get a
many,
bunch of people who were
how many more
convicted
crimes?
of assault, right,
Yeah.
on police officers, and you don't expect them to recommit crimes of some sort. You know,
Yeah. Well, what is the recidivism rate? Pretty
I,
high.
I haven't looked this month, but
Yeah.
it's supposed to be somewhere around between 15 and 20%.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's the thing. The hypocrisy of being law and order, and then Trump pardoning the people who wanted to tear down the democracy. That's pretty rich. But I thought Trump was pretty noteworthy when he went to see the king. I think he was trying on his king pants, meeting with the king in England. You know what got me? This is a quote. He said, "We must defend the exceptional heritage that makes us who we are." I mean, he wants to join the British now. We're America. We revolted against it, and he says, and we must continue to stand for the values of the people of the English-speaking world. I mean, is he talking about the Philippines? Is that the English-speaking world he's talking about,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
or just the colonized sense of the Philippines? I mean, when he said that, I thought, wow, he
Well, what about
really is.
the educated class of South Asia? The
Yeah,
educated class of South Asia is entirely English speaking.
yeah, I know. Well, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, are you talking the English-speaking world? Would that include the colonized as well as the colonizers?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I just think that when Trump starts talking like that, I saw it as a declaration of white supremacy. Really. Let's go.
Well, it's certainly consistent with white supremacy.
Yeah, let's go back.
Um,
Let's go back to the values of white supremacy is what he's saying, which kind
well,
of
yeah.
alarmed.
Well,
Yeah,
but if you look at the Declaration of Independence
right.
and you look at the Constitution, those are both consistent with white supremacy.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
I mean, this is I mean, the going backwards. How far back we going? I mean, this week showed us a lot, and America didn't go up in arms. I mean, pretty much we kind of accepted it, right? It's like this is we like this, and that's why my column I asked, does America really like fascism? You know, I guess it does, huh? A little bit.
well, well, they're willing to accept this high level of authoritarianism. You have people that refuse to accept the fact that much of what has been done, right,
Mm,
by this administration is in fact fascist. The element that I keep raising when we have these discussions, particularly about fascism, the meaning of fascism is what's missing was the use of, or what was missing was the use of the military as an enforcement factor, right?
we got it now,
And
right?
then they did that already. They
Yeah,
already did that, right? And they keep threatening to do it again, right? But
yeah,
somehow it ain't fascism. People are willing to say this is authoritarianism. Even people on the right are saying they're using the word authoritarianism. I do
yeah,
not expect them to use the word fascism, right?
yeah.
They're saying, "Well, we're nowhere near fascism." Well, the same thing is being said by people who say that Israel is not committing genocide on the
Right.
people of Gaza. Okay, that is not genocide. Okay, so now they're willing to accept. Remember this phrase, you know, ethnic what?
Cleansing,
Yes,
ethnic
ethnic
cleansing.
cleansing. That's it. They're willing to accept that now, even though the UN, majority has said, no, man, it's genocide. Okay, okay.
Well, I just think that we had a lot happen this week, and it just makes you want to shake your head and say, "Wow, where
How
do
do
we
we get
get?"
out of this? How do we get out of this? And the answer is, I don't know. If I know how to do it, I can give you a 5 point outline on how to do it. It's just
What
that
from
I don't think.
history, right? From history, right?
Yes, but I don't think the left, and particularly the Democratic Party, I don't think they've got the guttural wherewithal,
Yeah. Well,
to accomplish it. I don't think they've
the
got the courage.
the thing about where we are now is, if you look at history, you say, Well, we've had slavery in the United States, and that was bad. And we've had, the depression and abject poverty, and that was bad. And we've had, all the things in the through the 30s and 40s, not so great. And we got out of them, right?
Well,
We
we
got
have
we
a
had
continuing crisis of homelessness,
Yeah.
and we have not been effective at any level. Okay, well,
Yeah.
I would say at only the lowest and local levels.
Yeah.
You might have 2,000 people unhoused, and you might be successful in housing 300 or 400 of them, right?
Yeah.
And that's where we're at right now. So we've
Yeah.
got too many guns, right? We've got people that are willing to use violence. When you
Mm.
look at the polls, especially of Republicans, they think that violence is perfectly fine.
Right.
It's useful in accomplishing their political and social goals. There are people even in the Democratic Party and on the left that are willing to do that. It's just that the numbers are lower. The percentage
Yeah.
of respondents is lower.
Well,
But that's where
I
we're at.
I just tell people that read your history, and hope your leaders read their history, and maybe we find our way out of it. But it takes time, and it takes, the power of the vote. That's why the vote is sacred. And next time,
Well, but
vote.
they're moving on the vote. They're moving
I
on the vote.
Oh
They're
yeah,
moving on restricting the vote. And people,
restricting
have
and
you seen the ads on pro and con Prop 50?
mhm. Oh,
The people, the anti Prop 50 ads say that we're trying to end uh, the control by politicians, right? Instead of having the public control how districts are set, right?
mhm.
They're saying we're going to allow the politicians to do that, and the only way that the pro Prop 50 campaign is countering that is by saying this is. They don't even say it's only temporary. They say that we're protecting it. We're
Yeah.
protect. How are you protecting it? You're not explaining to the public. Once again, it's failure as an educational device. If you're
Yeah.
not explaining to the public how this is actually protecting the independence of the commission that was voted on in the past, right, to
Yeah.
control and set districts, voting districts.
Well, it's a failure on both sides, and when one has a little advantage, one tries to take advantage. But I don't, I don't know how we get out of this redistricting muck. And right now, the only thing I think that would save us is if everyone got a sense of history, and came to some kind of conclusion, so they can talk to the existing leaders and say, "Hey, look, we know what happened, or we know what's happened because we know what's happened in the past, and this is where we want to go. This is where we need to go."
Yeah, there it is. That's exactly. People have to organize around a specific plan, right, and be able to argue that plan on a local and a statewide basis, because it's going to be the states. Okay, here's what's happening that's positive, right? You got RFK Jr. Now stacking everything against the CDC. He's
Mm.
stacking it against all of the vaccination policies. Okay, states are now forming consortia, right,
Oh yeah,
to protect the interests of their own residents,
right.
so that they do have access to vaccinations. Okay, so that they do have access to health care. That's the way it has to go. That is a perfect illustration of what can be done about voting rights and what can be done on almost all other issues in terms of protecting the interests of state residents, local residents. It's called police power. Police power, right? That is protection of the health and safety of the residents of a given state. That's called police power. and that is equally confrontational to the exercises of federal power. And
and,
there are ample examples of state police power, right,
mm.
transcending and defeating federal assertions of power.
So that's interesting. I mentioned that because the vaccine states, Washington, Oregon, and California, they're going to oppose whatever the CDC says or
I
whatever
think
RFK.
Nevada is going to jump in on that too.
Yeah, but I think I mentioned that in Canada. And they said, "Hey, look, we don't have to talk about the 52nd state or the 51st state. We can talk about the 11th province, Washington, Oregon, and California."
Right, 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 right,
And they like that they like that in Canada.
right, right.
So Dan,
Yeah, it looks
you
like a
know,
wrap.
yeah, I just think that all right. I was going to talk about cancel culture, but cancel culture is just that's another political BS move. That's the thing about Charlie Kirk. He was good on all these debate tricks. Like he's saying, like if I were in blackface, am I a black man? Then if I have a dress, am I a trans woman? I mean, he had little debate tricks like that were easy. They were like in chess. There's a move called Fool's Mate. It lasts 3 moves, and if someone's foolish enough not to block against it, you can checkmate someone in 3 moves. It's rare, but if you're dealing with an experienced player, you could do it. Charlie Kirk did the equivalent of that in debate. He'd have these sort of like weird sort of, he'd make these conundrum statements and make it sound perfectly illogical. And then most people would just give up and wouldn't know how to respond. That's how he got by on, his ask. What was it? Prove me wrong. He
Yeah,
called it prove me wrong.
that was his position.
He did these illogical logic tricks, debate tricks, and but I've seen him on tape on YouTube going up against really good debaters and failing miserably because
Yeah,
he did not have all the facts and he was not that good a speaker. He had a point of view and had people who'd like lift him up and turn him into a hero. Hey, did you see that South Park with Christy Noem? That also, it was like episode 2. It also made fun of Charlie Kirk. And Comedy Central took it off the repeat cycle, although you could still see it on Paramount Plus. But I mention it because Charlie Kirk apparently loved that episode that made fun of him, made fun of his hair, made fun of everything, but he loved it. And
how do we know he loved it? Did he say so?
His Turning Point colleague said, "Hey, Charlie," and he said to the press, we got to develop the thick skin. I love this stuff. And funny how no one else will listen to him. I mean, no one else would adhere to that. And instead, they used Charlie Kirk as a battering ram to take away rights of Americans. So that's
Well,
where we
yeah,
are.
yeah. The worst thing really that Kimmel said, I thought, was
Mm.
not about Charlie, the assassin of Charlie Kirk. The worst stuff that he said was what he said about Trump, and when they showed the video of Trump's
Oh yeah,
reaction
yeah,
to the member of the press corps, the reporter who asked, how do you feel? How do you feel right now? And he
yeah,
said, well, I'm doing okay. I'm doing okay. And the ballroom
yeah,
is doing fine. And he kept answering questions like that the same way.
yeah.
Even when he went
He
live.
said, he
Remember,
said,
how about his
yeah,
interview on Fox and Friends, right?
he said, "I'm doing good." He should have said, "I'm doing well," but he said, "I'm doing good." And we're putting him in the ballroom. Yeah, I know it's crazy. He's not, and as Kimmel said, this is like the 4th stage of grief, which is construction.
Construction.
So,
And
yeah,
he also said that this is the way a 70-year-old kid would react to the funeral of his goldfish, right?
right. Yeah, I mean,
A 4-year-old. I don't know.
there was no, yeah, 4-year-old, I think, but no, there was no connection, to the people. I mean, and to the issue. It just shows what a phony Donald Trump is. All right, so Dan,
Is
yes,
incapable of empathy.
yeah, it's true. I mean, look, let's wrap up. I just want to say, so I'm coming to the Marsh on November 19th. Uh, get your tickets. Go to themarsh.org/shows. Just put my name in there, and you'll see Emil Amok live March at the Marsh, November 19th. But also, you may be interested in this. Next week, Friday and Saturday, I'm at Bindlestiff at the Filipino Comedy Festival. So come on down
You
Friday.
gotta rush for tickets to that too, because
Friday, yeah.
it's last year. You know, we attended last year, and
So
it sold out very quickly.
all right, so 7 p.m. 7 p.m. on the 26th, and then it's 7 and 9, and then I am on the 26th show. The 27th, I'm not at that show, but maybe I'll go to one of them.
They had two shows
Yeah,
on the evenings on
yeah,
each evening. So
yes.
yeah,
7 and 9 on the 26th, and 7 and 9 on the 27th.
they don't
And
have a 9 to 11. They don't have a
I
follow
don't.
up show. A
Well, the
second.
seven a 7 o'clock show and a 9 o'clock show.
Okay, there it is.
Yeah.
There it is.
So there's a 7 o'clock and a 9 o'clock.
Yeah, no, we did both.
So I'm going to be part of the 7 o'clock show on Friday, and I'll hang out for the 9 o'clock, and then I'll probably go to the Saturday show to see Al, to see A. Samson Manolo.
Right on. Right
So anyway,
on. Right
so
on.
that's at
11 o'clock.
Bindlestiff.
You know, if we
Yeah,
were younger, 11 o'clock would be fine. We'd go right out and get something to eat. You know.
yeah, I know. No, I know. I mean, 7 and 9, 7 and the 9 o'clock show. Those are good.
Yep.
You got a seven
Right
o'clock show and
on.
a nine
There it
o'clock.
is. Yeah, get your tickets because it sells out fast.
Okay, so you go to Bindlestiff Studios, bindlestiffstudio.org/Filipino Comedy Fest 3. Okay. All right, Dan. Thanks for joining. We still have a country though, right?
It looks like it. You know, but see, I'm in San Francisco, man, and you're in California
Yeah.
again,
Yeah.
and so we look kind of good, and at least we know we can get vaccines.
Yeah. Hey, how about this? Do you get a sense that there's a chill in the air, that some people are purposely not saying things?
I don't know. I haven't been in communication with a whole lot of people. I was going to do some of that today and over the weekend.
I mean,
Uh,
I think it does put a chill in the air. I mean,
I
some people might say,
probably
"Oh,
right. Well,
Emil, why?" Yeah,
yeah.
why?
Well, you've been in contact with a whole lot more people than I have.
Yeah,
Even
in
you know.
Canada, in Canada,
Well, yeah. Well, how long you been back now? So
just a couple of
a
days.
few
Yeah.
days. Yeah. See, so I haven't. I keep thinking about people and calling them and seeing where they're at, but I haven't done it. So
Oh,
I,
okay.
you know,
All right. All right. Look, Dan,
I'm
thank
going
you
to
very
make one
much.
call right after this.
We'll talk more
We do. We
after.
do. We have to talk about November 5th.
Yeah, and no, November 5th. I'll talk about November 5th. We're going to do our podcast live. So if you like what you're seeing, just show up to the San Francisco Public Library. All right, on November 5th. All right, so Dan, thank you very much. Good seeing you again. I'll talk to you soon. There he
Regards
goes.
to family.
Yeah,
Hug,
yeah.
Kath.
Same, yeah. Same.
Okay.
And let's hope the Giants win tonight. Okay, all right.
Okay. Yeah, we need to. Yeah, they got to win one.
They got it. Otherwise, yeah, forget it. Okay.
What are they? They're
All right.
3 back. They're still 3 back, right?
They got to out. They got to win everything. They got to win all their games. Ugh.
Yep. Yeah.
Not likely, but
It's tough. It's
let's
tough.
hope.
Yeah, but they're fun to watch. Anyway.
Yeah. All right. There he goes. There goes Dan, Professor Daniel Phil Gonzalez, my friend, College of Ethnic Studies, San Francisco State University, Asian American Studies. We talk on Fridays, and sometimes it's been the only time we talk. I just got back, so I thought, oh yeah, I got some writing to do. I'm not going to go on, and we talked about Kimmel last week, or no, we talked about Kirk last week. We didn't talk about Kimmel. Kimmel came up just on Tuesday or Wednesday, right? And I don't know. It's sad. It's sad. I don't know what the answer is. But I know that tomorrow I'm right in the mood for a funeral. A friend of mine passed away. His name is Frank Veracruz, and we were kids together. I mean, between the ages of 10 to the ages of 14, inseparable, 4 years, pretty much. We played at the park. We were Dolores Park kids, maybe 10 through 15, 5 years. And then high school and college, never saw him again. Except, we had a reunion because the Giants had won. And, what was Frankie doing? Frankie was doing tailgates. And so we all went to a tailgate. It was great. It was like the old team was back together. And it's sad when you're mourning your childhood friends because your friend is gone, but also there's that realization that, hey, that innocence from childhood is gone too. So it's sad. Mostly I'm sad for the fact that there was that long period when we didn't see each other, but that's how rich the life was between ages 10 and 40. We even won several championships. The first one at age 10, the sponsor of the team took us out to dinner, and we're just Mission District kids. We went to a nice restaurant. We all ordered a steak. Oh yeah, we're gonna order steak. Let's get a steak. We never seen steak. Right? We just get pork chops all the time. We always get adobo. We're gonna get steak. We get a steak, a big juicy steak. And now I say, wow, I should have told him I'm vegan. But anyway, I'll be talking about Frankie at his service tomorrow. It's sad because special time, childhood. And when you're mourning a friend, it's a special send-off. Anyway, that's it for me. Don't forget, I'm doing these shows November 19th at 7:30 p.m. at the SF Marsh. Go to sfmarsh.org. Yeah, go to themarsh.org/shows and find Marsh Rising Emil Guillermo. There it is on the screen. And then also 7 p.m. September 26th, just coming up. I'm part of the Filipino Comedy Festival. And go to bindlestiffstudio.org and get tickets to the Filipino Comedy Festival, September 26th. I'm at the 7 p.m. show. So we'll see what happens. Should be fun. 7 to 9. Then there's a 9 o'clock show. Should be fun. And then they do it again on Saturday. Different people. A lot of Filipino comics out there. So hope to see you at Bindlestiff. All right. Let's do the meditation. And so, as I wish for me, I wish for you. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you be healthy. And may you live with ease. Emil Guillermo here. Till next time. Mahal